And I'm going to send things over to a person of great interest in the bluegrass education world. He's just a fire starter, very dynamic performer, very dynamic person of interest in the bluegrass education world. Also, mad shout out to the folks who start associations. And he is also the founder of the Connecticut Bluegrass Association, which is great. Austin Scelzo, after serving in public schools as a public school orchestra director, Austin decided to take a big risk in transitioning from a creative orchestra teacher to musical entrepreneur. This decision followed his growing love for bluegrass music and desire to serve and provide resources to that community. He founded the Connecticut Bluegrass Association, which is so valuable, which seeks to promote bluegrass bands, education, jams, festivals, and event venues in and around Connecticut. Austin still visits schools as a clinician, prevents at professional development sessions, and shares resources for public school teachers to incorporate non-traditional approaches to education on YouTube and in his blog. I had the good fortune of working with Austin in the class of 2023, of which he was a very valuable member. And Austin facilitated a conversation around how the wide tent model of bluegrass education and outreach are connected. I'm going to give the floor to Austin Scelzo.
Well, thank you so much, Annie. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate that so much. And I just appreciate the opportunity to share some of the findings that the Leadership Bluegrass class of 2023 put together for you. Our task was sort of twofold. One of them was to compile a list of suggestions and possible barriers for new audiences to bluegrass music, which was originally for younger. We were originally targeting just young people, but then we realized we just kind of expanded this idea of bringing new audiences to bluegrass music. So I'd like to share with you the findings of the Leadership Bluegrass class of 2023 in that presentation, and also highlight some of the resources that were compiled in a conversation around the implementing bluegrass music in the schools program. So a lot of these, like Annie mentioned, were resources that were out there in the world, but maybe are in outdated formats, for example, in DVD form and things like that, or they were just, out there and not kind of properly promoted. And so I'd like to also share some of those findings with you, mostly through a sharing of my screen here. So let me just pull this up. The first thing I'd like to share is this incredible resource that has been available to us for many years now. This is Discover Bluegrass, which is originally a DVD series that was a part of the resources in the original manual. A listed document of check out this DVD. Well, only as of less than 2 years ago, this was compiled and transferred into YouTube format. So these videos are all publicly available online right now, and they're just incredible resources that feature some of our young musicians like AJ Lee and Sierra Hull. Some of these musicians talk about what bluegrass music is like to them today. And so this first video in the series here focuses on that. The second one is a video presentation about the roots of bluegrass music that's available through this. Again, these are all public YouTube videos that are going to be available through the IBMA Foundation page as a link from the document to resources for teachers and musicians. Next one is a continuation history of the early bluegrass music, growth and expansion, second generation, third generation bluegrass music. There's a great presentation on singing, bluegrass harmony, trio, duo, and quartet singing. A fantastic introduction for the instruments, which I can say from my public school experience is very, very, very important. There hasn't been one school I've walked into with a mandolin or a banjo where the instruments have been recognized by either the students or the teachers. It's just in the Northeast, especially in areas where this music is not as prevalent or culturally relevant. This sort of video can be really important. And obviously for all the fiddlers out there, how many times you've been asked the question, how is a violin different than a fiddle? So there's a great answer there. And then finally, there is a conclusion video here that again includes some of the thoughts of our young bluegrass musicians. today. So this is a great resource that is now only recently now available to share on the IBMA Foundation page, and something we wanted to highlight as a Bluegrass leadership class as a resource. Another resource only recently made available is this one here. This is the CBA, California Bluegrass Association's presentation in 2021 at the award show, and it is probably the best resource we have today for highlighting diversity of both age, ethnicity, and ability level, which I think is really important. We do have videos online of the really high performing bluegrass musicians from Kids on Bluegrass. This one is of just a big wide net for all the, way more accurately represents, I think, what an average public school is capable of creating today. So this resource is really, really important. Let me make sure the sound is getting to you all right here. I know I can make that optimized for video. There we go. You see, we can see high school students, middle school students, elementary age. They're singing and improvising, solos on different instruments. Young and old. Where my parents were born. This is a collaboration with Kimber Ludiker and Deanie Richardson were the main people involved in this project. And it was presented live at the 2021 award show. So I want to draw attention to that resource. I think it's a very, very important one in getting schools aware of what this music looks like and to realize that their students can be a part of it. Next resource I want to draw attention to, we're focusing on one of the things that we were focusing on is as a public school teacher, I know that a big barrier to bringing a workshop like this or bringing a bluegrass band to a school is just fear of and uncertainty. It's not knowing what the students will think. It's not knowing what the program will look like. And so one of the ways that we can really make teachers feel at ease is not only showing them what this looks like, having some good examples, video examples of what that looks like, but also getting feedback from students, getting, some examples of the students interacting with bands. So there's two videos I wanted to highlight really quickly there. One here is actually of Greg Cahill and Special Consensus. This is a great little presentation of American bluegrass in the schools, just a sampler. Great quick way of sharing what it looks like to play music for you. We're going to talk about music. We're going to introduce the instruments. And we're going to have discussion. You'll hear some questions from the audience.
Music or something that old people might
really, a casual conversation in the audience here.
It's like,
so that's a great example of a video that would set a teacher's mind at ease. Another example of this is I want to highlight the fact that the IBMA Foundation has grants that are available, and this was a grant project showing students what it's like to play without sheet music, demonstrating instruments, performing with a group of instruments, talking about singing and playing, having a band accompany the orchestra. This is something that some performances have, or some programs around the country are doing this regularly. And then this is a very important one, getting a sense for what the students think, right? So not only the teachers know what it's going to look like, but they understand that the students are going to respond to it positively. Right, so you get both perspectives there, really important. Final thing I'd like to share with you here is the panel that we did on introducing new audiences to bluegrass music. So that's the main goal here. Let's see, sorry here. So just some of these. This is going to be presented in more detail when we do a presentation at this upcoming masterclass at the World of Bluegrass in Raleigh. But just to kind of mention some of the things that came up here that I think are really applicable to the people in this call right now is the barriers, young and old, for people to get into bluegrass music, and some potential solutions that we can get more new people involved and in the door. So this is probably one of the most important I wanted to highlight here is there are education systems that are adopting vernacular music in their programs. For example, jazz music. If you sign up for band in many parts of the world, you will be in jazz band. And that is a significant advance in including American music in the schools, right? As opposed to where it's been traditionally focused, which is in the choral, especially in orchestra setting, where we're focused on European classical music. So this is a huge step forward. Unfortunately, we don't see that in the inclusivity of bluegrass and string band music, but there's an incredible potential there. This is often the case, especially in areas where people's families are not connected to bluegrass music. So, i.e. the Northeast, very, very common. It's just not a part of the culture. So that's a big barrier for people. You'll see some other points here. I'll try to highlight the ones that are specific to kind of the education world. So let's see. Families, getting young people and families involved in festivals and things like that. Often it could be prohibitive if you have to pay for every individual student. This is a big part of why I think the CBA video is very important, because the intimidation factor of extreme virtuosity in the genre can keep young people from feeling like they have a place. Of course, this is a factor which hopefully we're addressing with the funding and some possible solutions. Now, part of the IBMA Foundation, you'll see a link to teacher training, which I think we plan on putting more of those, and also having some examples of past teacher trainings or some links on the IBMA Foundation page that will include that. This is another big movement forward. This is a suggestion. It's already happening. IBMA Foundation is becoming a hub for all this information that we're talking about. Let's see some other examples here. We've talked about inclusivity and showing examples of diversity in the bluegrass world. This is a huge area that we can leverage young musicians like Billy Strings and Molly Tuttle if we keep leveraging the audiences that we already have from those and connecting them to getting kids in schools to hear these artists and things like that can be an easy bridge. We talked about diversity of age. This is a big improvement in, or there's a lot of great material that Jordan Laney has included of the history, being inclusive of the earlier contributions of musicians. It's a big part of getting more students involved in schools. We talked in general about festivals, targeting young families, supporting kids academies. We mentioned the Roots Music Story, early bluegrass music. Instrument loaning programs came up a lot, getting instruments in students' hands. Family passes, family discounts. You heard me mention that. Getting associations to not just promote kids' families' activities, but also have videos and easily accessible 21st century sorts of things. Let's see if there's any others here. This came up a lot, having other, not just hot jams at these festivals, but having more family inclusive programs like group folk singing or songwriting, or even non-musical activities at festivals that can involve families. Free concerts at school systems, or using grants to help fund those, and then offering those students to come to the shows, or either give them complimentary tickets or encourage them to attend the show that weekend. Talked about the history and accessibility of the music. Getting kids to perform at local festival stages or at open mics and in the public, getting the music in front of people. Talent shows, another way to do that. This is a program that the Floyd Country Store employed to get more money flowing into getting young audiences there. So when people buy a ticket, they're offered the opportunity to donate $1 to $5 to the Share the Music program, which helps young families and people who can't afford to go to these programs get into that. We mentioned this before. You're going to hear more from Jam and Jam Pack, or about Jam Pack, from Gieselle. I'm very excited to hear about that. After school activities came up. This is a very important one. When I was teaching online during the pandemic, the Army Navy band came in and did a free presentation for the band students. Well, there is an Army and Navy bluegrass band that can do just the same, provide these things at no cost. So if we can promote that sort of thing, that would be very helpful. You might hear today of the Hen House Prowlers. They created this Bluegrass Ambassadors program to help raise money for these same school visits. And of course, we heard from Greg today on Special Consensus's amazing work. I want to wrap it up there, and I hope you found something interesting or intriguing about that. I've wanted to compress it in as short a time as I could, but I just appreciate so much for you listening.